Knut Frostad, since 2 years CEO of the Volvo Ocean Race. You have sailed 4 Whitbread and Volvo Ocean Race, Intrum, Innovation Kværner, D-Juice and Brazil 1. First time I met you was in Southampton '93 before the Whitbread start. I think you were the youngest guy in the crew then.
I was. I was.
But before that, it was smaller boats. Tell me about your sailing history.
Well, before that, I started in some dinghy we have called a dinghy, which is a Norwegian thing. It looks like an Optimist, which was not very successful for me because those were built of wood, and mine had been spending most of its time on the water, so it was very heavy. And the girl who was living next door to me, she had an Optimist, which was way faster. So I got very depressed very early about sailing and decided not to do it, as she was much faster than me. And then I didn't pick up sailing before I was 12, and then I started windsurfing. Actually, windsurfing is where I've spent almost most of my time. I raced competitively in the national team there for 8-10 years. Grew up with Swedish Anders Bringdahl, and we spent many years together. And that was my entrance into sailing. And then I got too big for windsurfing. We had to be quite small those days, especially in the Olympic Games in '88. Everybody thought there was going to be no wind in Korea, and it ended up blowing like crazy. So we had lost too much weight, and I decided to move on to bigger boats and started sailing actually International 14 first, and then Flying Dutchman for the Barcelona Olympic Games. And since then, I'd always looked at the Whitbread, and that was a big thing, big dream. And, I found my niche, and apart from windsurfing, I think offshore sailing has been my biggest passion.
So you were in the Olympics '98 and '92?
In '88, I came second in the trials. So I was just a reserve crew, so I didn't actually race in the Olympic Games. But in the '92, I was racing Flying Dutchman in Barcelona.
Yeah. How did it go?
I finished 7th.
Okay.
So I was disappointed because we came second in the Europeans just a month before, so we thought we were going to do better. But anyway, that's Olympic Games. It's difficult.
You have yourself started up, acquired sponsors, pushed and implemented 2 entries in the race, Innovation Kværner and D-Juice. That means 2 kinds of leaderships. Which one is the toughest part to be the boss of the project or the skipper on the boat?
That's a good question. I think the toughest part is to do both at the same time. I think in the old days, most of the skippers were involved in the funding of the race. I mean, Peter Blake always found the money for his own teams. Roger Nielsen did it. It's the way you were the front person and you could sell it. But the sport evolved and became so professional, so it wasn't really time to do both. And I was actually quite tired, I remember, in particular in D-Juice, when we started actually training after working so hard for a long time to find all the money. But I think the toughest you can do in this race is leadership when you're not winning. So, I mean, that's much tougher than finding the money or managing a project. Because not winning is much harder than losing money in a company. Much harder. Because it's the passion and it's the devotion of your whole team. And that means much more than money, and it means more than anything. So in this race, there is one winner and the rest are not necessarily losers, but I think the level of the event today is that everybody who enters have an ambition of winning. In the old days, there was always quite a few teams that entered and they were quite pleased of getting around the world and finish in the top 3rd or something, and those days are gone. And that's tough because expectations are built around you and your sponsors, and they pay a lot of money for you to perform. So D-Juice was a very tough project for me because we had very high ambitions. We made some mistakes, so we developed a boat that wasn't as fast as it should have been, and that adds to things. And that was a really tough experience. Probably my toughest leadership experience ever.
Okay. In the beginning, it was more an adventure than a competition.
Yeah,
I think.
well, I think already in '93 it was a tough competition,
Yeah.
and I came straight from the Olympics in Barcelona, and we're used to do races to win and to perform. So it wasn't, but there was already culture change happening in '93. I think Roger and Magnus and these guys came from the days where it was more passion and more adventure, and the younger generation came in with from dinghy sailing and wanted to look at every single wind shift. I still remember we had discussions on the first leg out of Southampton whether we should tack on every shift or not. And I couldn't believe that we were not tacking on 5-degree shifts. And today they are racing, the Volvo Ocean Race is being raced as a dinghy race every day. I mean, it's incredible. The last race we had coming into to Boston after sailing from Rio, and it was 4 boats within 20 minutes. I mean, it's close racing.